Welcome to the Cyber Call, the podcast by RoB26 for managed service providers looking to stay ahead in an ever-changing world of cybersecurity. Each week, we dive into the latest threats, trends, and real-world strategies to help MSPs protect their clients and grow their businesses. Let's build a safer, stronger community together.
All right, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome. And this is got to be one of the coolest favorite cyber calls going. Again, hard to believe, but we are in 2026. Hard to believe we are 3 weeks from RoB26. So in the spirit of RoB26, I wanted to bring on three of the most sought after workshops at RoB26 with John Strand and the BHIS team. We'll do some intros in a second. But first and foremost, again, welcome and thanks for joining us. I wanted to just set the stage a minute by saying, Kelvin, again, your session at RoB26, your workshop leads all sessions with not only sold out, but a fairly extensive waiting list. So congratulations. And
I love that. That's so much fun to hear. That genuinely makes me happy. Not because other sessions didn't sell out or anything like that. It just makes me, it excites me to know how many people want the content that we're delivering. The thing is, that's one really important thing, because we're going to talk a bit about the Black Hill InfoSec sessions. If you're not going to my sessions because you can't get in, go to those, because they're also talking about M365 and these really in-depth things that you have to know.
Well, what's beautiful, Calvin, is your session does not interfere with their.
See, there you go.
Exactly. It's one day before, and we're following up the next day with all the Black Hill stuff. So go to those.
Yeah, I mean, there's some crazy amount of planning going on, is what you're saying.
There is. Yeah. There is. There's a lot of planning, like north of 60-something workshops and sessions this year. And, Microsoft is banging down the door. They're going to have a bunch of executives and directors, which is amazing. Banging down the door, Kelvin, like, hey, we want to be in Kelvin's session. So you obviously are doing something right there.
And Joff, just so you know, Microsoft banging down their door means something completely different than what it means for BHIS.
That's true. We can go down those stories, John, if you want.
We can actually. Yeah, we can.
All right.
Just real quick, are other people getting sound? I see one person says they're not getting any sound.
No getting sound. Hey, Keith or Mike, might get relevant. Can you confirm you can hear us? Please.
I always feel like it's Tommy and the Who when we get to these situations.
Does that ever stuff ever happen to you talking about security?
Never, ever. Like, our audio is flawless every single time.
Feel the boom. Be part of the conversation at RoB26 2026. Tickets on sale now. Use code CyberCallPod to save $100.
Especially when the webinars go live. You did the practice session, and then it's like, oh, bam.
Yeah, Mike just said it's fine. So if Mike's fine.
Yeah, okay. Everybody.
It's got to be fine, right?
It's got to be okay.
Okay. Yeah. Ace, talk to the landlord, throw something at him that, we'll do something crazy. Hopefully you get that. And Dennis, awesome to see you as well. All right. So here's the last thing we're going to talk about and then get right in, because we have so much content. Normally do some banter at first, like talking about security, John, but we're not going to do that today. But I'm going to give you one guess, Phyllis. Out of the BHIS sessions, who has the highest registration so far? Is it door number 1, door number 2, or door number 3?
I'm going with Patterson.
I'm going 3.
That's where we point. Like it's the Brady Bunch square,
3
right?
is my lucky number. I don't know who's behind door number 3, but I'm going to go with 3.
Okay, so John's Patterson. Joff, who are you?
I'm sorry, my short-term memory just totally forgot the options. 1 was who?
No, you don't worry about it. You don't have to worry about door number.
I'm going with Patterson.
Okay, Patterson, who do you think?
Are you talking to me?
No,
Patterson. I'm trying to ask you who Patterson.
Can I vote for Kelvin as an honorary?
There you go. So that's the one I want.
So, fun detail. Today, my employees at my MSP were also registering, and they registered for Patterson session.
I'm going with Patterson's session.
Yeah,
I want
you
to go to
guys.
Joff's. I want to go to Joff's session, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
I'm going to vote for Joff too.
Okay.
Thank you, Phyllis. I'm going to buy a short call on Patterson and see if I can win the stock market prize.
Intuition was correct, Mr. Strand. It is Patterson.
Oh, there
No.
I always simplified. Now, why did you go that route? Is it his good looks, B, his charm, or 3, he works for BHIS?
Or all of the above. I think the session is pretty solid. I do hope to change that today. Is kind of my hope. I'm going to talk a little bit about what my session's going to be and how I'm going to do it a little bit different. But no, it's just when Patterson shows up, it's always fantastic.
Yeah,
so it's a good time.
I got to hear him keynote and present. He is awesome. I've also got to hear, well, obviously you a million times, but Joff is flawless because his AI stuff rocks as well. All right, so quick intros. Let's start with the janitor of BHIS. We'll go around and then I'll throw it right over to Phyllis.
So this is hi. I'm the janitor of Black Hills Information Security. I've been traveling so much. So I think this year it was over 70 flights. Last year, and this year is not looking much better. And I'm never at the office. And somebody had pointed out that we have a whole bunch of new employees coming into Sturgis, and they were like, "Can we take your office over?" So I've been now officially moved. I am not joking. I am in a closet that they've set up for me. I could take the camera around, but it's literally a closet. Like, this is the entire space of the entire office. And it's I found out just before coming on that the studio is right here. And that is a former radiology room in the medical center that we bought. And this is the room where they would run into, and then they would hit the button, and it's completely lead lined, the whole room. So I get in here, get everything set up. Wi-Fi does not work in this room at all. So I'm the owner of Black Hills Information Security, and I do janitorial duties from time to time. And
John, you have your very own skiff.
I do. Absolutely. It could actually be a skiff. It'd be JFAN 6.3 compliant. So
very, very nice. All right. Going to Mr. Tire. Good to see you, Joff. Welcome.
Thank you. And thank you. Yeah. So, John has long said that one of these days he's going to walk into the office and people are going to be like, "Who's this guy?" And I think that day's getting close, John.
Dude, it happened today. We hired a new guy to the systems team, and I went up and he looked at me all confused. I'm like, "My name is John Strand. I work here." And he just was like, "Oh, you're the owner." I'm like, "Yeah." So there you go.
Yeah. So look, I'm Joff. I've worked with John and Black Hills for over a decade now. So I like to think that I've been part of building this whole thing with John, and I think that's actually true. But I, in the last couple of years, I've done a pretty big pivot towards artificial intelligence. Looking at the data science, the machine learning, the technology, and then, working forward from there. And of course, everybody knows it's moving at the speed of light. So that's me.
Great to have you, Joff. I'm really excited to hear about, your course. I got to listen to it for several hours a few months back at the Roost event, and it was phenomenal. That was a packed room, standing room only. Speaking of another standing room only, packed room, I got to listen to you keynote at Kaseya, Patterson. So talk to us a little about yourself, and then I'll go to Phyllis.
Andrew, thank you. Super excited to be here. Really stoked about Ride a Boom. My name's Patterson Cake. That's my real name, believe it or not. And I do incident response at Black Hills. Unlike John and Joff, I let them build something really amazing and cool over the years, and then I jumped on the bandwagon and just riding that wave for about the last 3 years. Incident response is my day job. Work with MSPs a lot. Again, just hugely excited about participating in this year's conference and sharing what we're seeing and learning and raising the bar. So thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Patterson. And as I hand it to Phyllis, again, for those listening and those, you just maybe share with others that you have friends, peers, whatever, it's rare that you get the kind of expertise teaching at Ride a Boom. And like this, these are former SANS instructors as well. They also lead tons of classes at their anti-siphon training at Black Hills. So you can either pay $9 to $10,000 at SANS or come to Ride a Boom and learn a lot of the same stuff. So with that, Phyllis, let me turn it over to you.
Yeah, great seeing everybody here. Happy New Year. So John, let's kick things off with your session titled Cloud Forever Days and Intro to Pen Testing. And so when you say it's not a bug, it's a feature, what is it in the cloud that, defenders are hating, but like attackers are totally depending upon?
It's kind of weird. Over the past few weeks, I've been trying to figure out like what I'm going to be presenting starting in 2026, right? And it's really going to be threat hunting, advanced adversaries, and then I really want to focus kind of elevating the stuff that Bo Bullock has been doing, looking at cloud vulnerabilities. And also some of the stuff is stuff that Patterson's going to talk about in his session as well, because we see these vulnerabilities showing up again and again and again. And there's a ton of vulnerabilities associated with authentication. I think, Patterson, that that's the overwhelming majority of the cloud breaches are authentication breaches. And that can mean a lot of different things, right? It can mean lack of two-factor authentication. It can mean OAuth attacks. It can mean, all kinds of different delegation style attacks. So whenever we're talking about this session, because I have two things that I'm hitting, right? I'm going to be doing a couple of different things in the session. The first thing was it was very, very difficult for me to try to figure out like which of the cloud attacks I wanted to focus on, right? We could be talking about malicious OAuth attacks. We could be talking about vulnerabilities in like cloud providers. We could be talking about different vulnerabilities in a compromised web server that bleeds over into other cloud assets. So what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be bringing cloud backdoors and breaches to this session. But wait, there's more, because I know there's people that like, I have cloud backdoors and breaches. I'm going to be teaching everyone how to play competitive cloud backdoors and breaches. So everyone's going to learn how to play, and I'm bringing the prototype cloud competitive backdoors and breaches session. And we're all going to play a competitive backdoors and breaches session that's literally going to have dozens of different attacks and literally an unlimited amount of attack scenarios that people can take back to work, and they can learn how these attacks function and also how to defend against them as well. Plus, I'm bringing some comic books and some other things. So that's like with the cloud thing. I mean, we got a huge deck of all the cloud vulnerabilities, but if I had to pick one, I would say authentication vulnerabilities are by far and away the biggest ones that we see for initial access.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have been talking about that a lot here on, the cyber call. So when everyone comes to your session, all the MSPs are coming. What's the number one, cloud misconception that you are going to,
that it's more away? I'm going to go with it's more secure. I'm going to go with that misconception, because that is a true statement and it's also not true, right? I think it's more secure because you're not trying to maintain an on-prem Exchange server. I think that that's absolutely fantastic, and it's really, really good. But the problem is whenever you're looking at cloud, and let's just pick on Office 365, or is it Copilot 365, or is it just Copilot? I can't remember what Microsoft did with the name last week, but they're changing it constantly. Whenever you look at the attack vectors, especially for post-exploitation, the things that we do constantly post-exploitation, once we find like an authentication style vulnerability for one user, we can go through and search for inboxes that have insecure permissions, right? We can export SharePoint, OneDrive data. We can export that automatically. We can go through and find groups where we can create very closely named groups to create persistence. I mean, there's so many different things that we can do post-exploitation that a lot of those are quote unquote features that are built into the system. And this gets into the joke Joff and I were kind of going back and forth where Microsoft beating our doors down. A lot of the vulnerabilities that we've discovered at Black Hills Information Security and tools that we release in tools like Graph Runner, when we share this with Microsoft, I would say 9 times out of 10, they're basically like, no, that's not a vulnerability. We designed it to be that way. Yes. And I think that that's something that's going to be kind of shocking for people to learn the breadth of all of the different attacks post-exploitation that exist as well.
John, can I chime in there for Kelvin, because he sits in as an MVP of Microsoft. What do you get an inside seat on this, Kelvin? What are your thoughts on what's?
There's a lot of choices that have been made in M365 that you have to remember that M365 is something that came from BHIS, which is technology created 15, 16 years ago when security wasn't as much at the forefront as it is now. The Entra team, the Azure AD team, got one simple assignment from the program managers. They said, we want to recreate Azure or we want to recreate Active Directory in the cloud. But Active Directory by default was already super permissive. So they had to do the same thing. And it's a lot of legacy choices that were carried over, and a lot of Microsoft is a huge proponent of collaboration. And they wanted M365 to be designed around collaboration. So that whenever there was a choice to be made around collaboration or security, they fell over to the side of collaboration, which guest access is a perfect example of that. I've said that a lot of times in the session. I've actually, at last Flow, I had a session with Bo Bullock to teach people about Graph and that kind of stuff. And we were talking about that guest access is super permissive in M365 by default. And that only has one reason. We ask for it. As MSPs, as users, as that kind of stuff, we want to be able to share data limitless. We want to be able to send someone a link and they should be able to see the file, not thinking about the security implications. So that's the biggest issue that we're bumping into. And like Microsoft says, they're not misconfigurations. They're just insecure by default.
Yeah. They're features.
I think it's funny. Almost everything you just said also applies to the operating system, right?
Yeah,
if you look at all the security vulnerabilities, you're like, wait a minute, this code looks like it's from 3.1 for work groups. Always has been. Always has been.
Joff, were you going to say something, bro?
No, I just, it's so on target, what Kevin's saying. It's by design. It's intended to be easy to operate, and security's typically been a secondary thought. And we've said, John and I have said for a long time, and many other pen testers at Black Hills historically, that Active Directory was the path to exploitation, right? It was the way we got in, because just straight up LDAP queries would get you so much information, and that's just been ported over to the cloud ultimately. And Bo spends a lot of time exploiting JSON RESTful APIs that give us data along those same lines, and it's ultimately the same issue.
On the other side, though, Kelvin, we are seeing things like the the token security coming in, and it seems like, and why they're showing up in mass at our conference, they're telling us, is because they are all in on security now, and we are seeing changes.
Microsoft has had a huge shift internally as well. They want more secure defaults. The biggest problem is their clients, us enterprises, everyone. We all are demanding things of them in specific ways, and they can't accommodate every single thing. A good story about that is multi-factor authentication. Microsoft wanted to enforce multi-factor authentication for every single client in M365 at one point. They said, we're going to do this. And then their biggest client in the world, which has they have an extreme spend. They have an extreme spend. The biggest enterprise in the world said, no, we're stopping you from doing that. And they just had to listen, because their biggest client said, like, hey, and it's exactly the same for MSPs. If your biggest client comes up to you and says, we don't want multi-factor authentication, an MSP is not going to enforce it either. It's the exact same pattern, just at a different scale.
And honestly, it's not a problem, because AI is going to come and solve all of our security problems. And it's the obligatory AI joke, right? And we're still waiting.
What I love.
Microsoft has made a big change. They have made a evolution of being a very security focused. I dare even say they are a security company on its own now, but they have had a lot of legacy they're carrying with them, and that's the biggest issue. It's tech debt. It's tech debt at a security level.
Yeah. So, Phyllis, let's jump back to you for
sure.
keep us on track here.
So we know secure by default has always been a long time dream of ours, John, back in our government days, for sure, secure configuration. And so what is, in your opinion, a classic harmless cloud misconfiguration that routinely becomes a serious exploit when you really think about an attacker?
Apps. The one that I think is the coolest is one of the techniques. Once you gain access, well, let me back up. It used to be, if you wanted to do a spear phishing attack, you could create a malicious app for a different company in Microsoft that would actually allow you to gain access to the data that's associated with that tenant. Microsoft made that a lot more difficult, because in order to actually get set up as a company to be able to publish apps and get them cross-pollinate, you have to do a lot of work to validate that you are in fact a real company. However, all of that goes completely out the window once you are a user on the inside of the environment. So if you gain access, then you can create your own app, and then you can share that app with other people within the organization. So this allows you to go from compromising one set or one account and then create kind of a honeypot for other people to come in, and then you can start taking over some additional systems utilizing that as well. So like looking at that post-exploitation, like just landscape that exists is just so rich in Microsoft. And I think it goes back to what we were just talking about. It's by that way by design, right? Microsoft wants you using Teams. They don't want you to go to Slack. They want you publishing as many apps as you possibly can, because you're going to use things like Copilot, hopefully. Please use Copilot, they say. We want that, right? So you have all of these things that you want to share and collaborate. And it's 100% true, right? If the business unit comes up against security concerns, like almost all the time, the business unit wins up until a breach. Then things change dramatically. So that's one of my favorite techniques that we're going to be talking about in my session.
That's awesome. So, we often talk on the call, like the training for users and for MSPs and what do they need to know. After MSPs, attend your Black Hills session, how is it that they should be using their offensive testing differently after the workshop, and what new habits should they be creating? And, as you always say, like, you're going to make it a regular part of your business. So what is it that they're going to take away and take home and start doing?
I'm going to pass this over to Kelvin here in a couple of seconds. There are so many tools that are free that you can use that makes your life so much easier. If you're looking at offensive testing, look at Graph Runner. I actually thought it was funny. I have, this GitHub project for CIPP up right now. It's just sitting here. But there are so many products out there that can assist you with this. And what I recommend a lot of MSPs and MSSPs do is look at what the free tools do. Right? Look at what the free tools do and what's available to you. And then start looking at what's possible. And then that stages you in your understanding as far as what commercial tools you can start to deploy. Because there are a lot of really great commercial tools that can help with these types of issues. But it's really good to start with some open source tools, get your head around what are the security implications that you're going to be dealing with? What are the tools at your disposal? Because you're never paying for what a commercial tool does. You're paying for what a commercial tool does that an open source tool does not do. And that's what you really need to be focusing on.
And then, I'm going to just go off script a little further, so you find the exploit, you find the issues. And then most importantly, as I always, my biggest thing is like defend. And, does your class, will there be a takeaway? Like, how can organizations prioritize what to do and how to do it and tools around that? I know you have a lot of that, so I just want to kind of.
Yeah, we do. And that's one of the reasons why if I'm looking at the session time, I have 4 hours, right? I've got to be talking like introduction to pen testing and how to do those types of security assessments. And we're going to definitely have some hands-on labs with doing that, right? But if we're looking at it broken down, it's like 2 hours and 2 hours. Mm-hmm. I don't want to just show up in 2 hours and give you 3 things, right? I want to leave you with a huge amount of things to think about, right? And that's why I'm kind of doing this backdoors and breaches competitive. We're going to walk through how to set it up, because as part of backdoors and breaches, it's not purely offensive. There's also a big component associated with defensive components of what you would be doing as well. So that is a huge takeaway from this, because a lot of the stuff that we've been doing for 20, 30, 40 years, you can actually match up the kind of goal and objective of things like log analysis, watching authentication logs, looking for failed authentications followed by successful authentications. You can take that templated concept and you can quickly apply it into the cloud. You just have to know the right places to go. So absolutely. And then the competitive aspect brings in all kinds of really hilarious things that I've seen in my my career over the years that we're going to incorporate that as well. So it's very, very, very cool. So please come check it out. I got to beat Patterson at least. That's what I'm asking for.
And John, if you haven't noticed, is a very dynamic speaker.
Yeah,
so it's also going to be very interesting. So my final question for you, John, is what is one cloud feature you've seen repeatedly turn into a board level incident, and why do orgs keep on leaving it exposed? Like, why? We always say that it's like over and over. You see the same thing. Why?
This is a great handover point for Patterson, because he does all of our IR, and as many of the cool 0-day attacks that we talk about, all the neat stuff that's out there, it comes down to authentication.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I can get in the front door and all it takes is one app, something that doesn't have a two-factor authentication, one user that we can socially engineer, once we get in, for many organizations, it's game on. And if you're going to start somewhere, look at your authentication profile. And it's far more than just simple user IDs and passwords for logging in. It's far more complicated than that. But like I said, this is a great handover for Patterson because he does all this stuff on the IR. Start with the simple. Don't get caught up in the bright, shiny thing that's out there. Stick with the basics and fundamentals. Authentication, authentication, authentication.
Yeah, I know we're going to Jot, but Patterson, you want to just, dovetail on that, what you see day in and day out?
Yeah, honestly, it dovetails perfectly with Kelvin's commentary a little bit ago. It's the human being. It's the combination of us as humans and our need for a mechanism to easily access the resources. So it's that human identity authentication piece. It's the future of security. I think it really is. We got to figure this out, and we're doing a terrible job. Just to be frank. So definitely you want to attend both John's session and mine. But I would definitely prioritize John's because he's far better looking than I am, hands down.
The bonus checks in the mail, man. And
Wow.
You know what? And this is horrible for you. This isn't going to help sell your class because now everyone knows without question you're a liar. So handing it over.
Damn it.
Okay, so let's make sure Josh's session gets full instead. Josh, can you tell us a little bit about your workshop? You're doing AI automation, cybersecurity, especially for MSPs focused on scale, as I understand it. So tell us about your session.
Well, really, ultimately, the focus is going to be on some automation, right? But I did a Write a Boom session last time, and Andrew alluded to this. And one of the challenges I've got, is the workshop's too short, but stuff happens. Oh, we lost Kevin. Okay, I guess that was the mic drop moment.
Good news. We will. That's okay. Keep on going.
And he came back. Okay,
We lost.
and
Not only does he keep going away and coming back, he's coming up on different sides of my screen. It's like he's transporting. We're now doing full portal.
Wow.
There we go.
That's fascinating, and it is very distracting. But anyway, no. So, one thing that I have said all along since the emergence of large language models and artificial intelligence has started to dominate all of our lives is not enough of us, cybersecurity and beyond, really understand how these things work. So the beginning of the session is going to be about some fundamentals, like, this is really how this large language model is actually working. Let's clear up some misconceptions. Let's, let's sort of level set to start with. It's good to see you, Kevin. The next thing that I would like to move into is, a little bit of description, some initial automation attempts that we went through experientially, and then move towards the end of the workshop, move towards actual automation frameworks, to do some lab work around automation frameworks, to talk about options around those approaches. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't start to mention this rapid leap towards agentic AI and what it means for cybersecurity from both an offensive and a defensive perspective. But I'm going to keep it more on the defensive and the workflow side, and more on the MSP side, if you like, due to the nature of this audience. But there's just so much we can talk about in the agentic AI space in particular, as we look at the way people are automating workflows in their day-to-day jobs.
That's I missed a little bit. Thankfully, I could hear all the audio, but my thing kept jumping in and out. So that was actually quite an experience. Looking at your session, it is really cool. What's the one thing that you believe MSPs? What's the one workflow? Because you just used the word workflow a couple of times now, it's stuck in my head. What's the one workflow you believe that MSPs should automate already because it's just an operational waste not to?
Well, I think the basic ticket management stuff, right? I mean, if you have your incoming workflow coming from, let's say, an email box, that is a natural thing that leans towards some agentic AI activity to do some basic categorization, to raise the ticket in the appropriate place with the appropriate resources. And there goes Patterson now. And incoming workflow that's coming into the organization from an agentic perspective is really fertile ground for this stuff in these applications.
Okay. And that's for any MSP, you're saying.
Yeah.
Looking at the more mature MSP security operations, so the guys that have a SOC or that are working with more complex incidents, like where do you think their biggest drag coefficient is that AI can remove? Is it something like the same like triage ticketing, or are you thinking more on the investigation reporting side?
I'm thinking more on the investigation reporting side. Honestly, the biggest bang for the buck you're going to get beyond some initial acceleration of just workflow triage, if you like, is going to be starting to lean into things like doing some automation of incident response with models agentically making some autonomous decisions based on that incident handling flow, and maybe more intelligently giving some responses to those tickets in the ticket flow, more intelligently doing some of the analysis. And the same applies actually, frankly, to the offensive side, right? I mean, we're seeing examples out there, and forgive me for saying this, I did have a decade of offensive security as well. So, but we are seeing lots of examples out there of fully automated pen test frameworks that are becoming very real in the industry, are driven by agentic AI and AI models. And I think we'll see a lot of traction with that. And recent Chinese APT actions that leveraged Anthropic Claude to write themselves a full penetration testing framework is a great example, right? And leverage that very, very effectively. So I think what it's going to come down to is how well people do in terms of giving their AI more decision-making ability and how they handle the on the agentic side of it. And this, I'd have to get into some definitions if I go much further, but on the agentic side of it, how they handle that actual reasoning and decision-making that comes out of what is fundamentally a non-deterministic technology. And that's where things get really interesting.
I'm loving all of these answers, especially because you just started about how the Chinese groups were already starting to use AI to automate these attacks as well, and that's a huge thing, of course, because I mean, as attackers, our attackers are now working in a more automated fashion. What's the mismatch you see between like the attackers' speed that they're gaining? They're automating probably more than MSPs these days, and the defenders' processes that need to catch up to that exact example. Well, where does automation close that gap?
Yeah, I mean, I should put this graphic. I had a graphic in one of my slides, which I'll try to dredge up again, and it's a graphic of two AI models with a sword, fighting each other, right? I mean, it's that's what it comes down to, right? We're going to see this full automation of attack frameworks. That's already happening. We are absolutely seeing on the defensive side a lot of automation of handling the attacks that are coming at you. And really, this is a ramp up on speed of all these processes. I mean, ultimately, when you look at AI models and AI technology, if it's done right, and that's an open question, it's about task acceleration, right? And task acceleration, it's on both sides. It's on the offensive side, it's on the defensive side, and it's equally applicable.
I'm going to go slightly off script here because I really love, I love the entire thought process of defenders and attackers and these kind of things. Even like when they're fully AI driven. What's your opinion about using something like a AI driven tool, Copilots, to do log analysis instead of an experienced SOC engineer or these kind of things? Like, do you believe MSPs are able to deliver the service like a SOC engineer would with these kind of AIs, or do you believe like there's still a gap there?
And Joff, after you answer, I'd love John's answer because you guys have a SOC, and I'd love to understand what. So Joff first, but John, if you could throw in like at BHIS with a fairly large SOC that has very important customers. what automation and AI are you guys looking at? So Joff first.
Yeah, I see this as kind of the 80-20 thing, Kelvin, sorry. It's one of those things where if you've got if you've worked a workflow, an AI-assisted workflow, an agentic workflow that's relatively mature, then throw a lot of use cases at it, but throw them in the area where they're just volume initially so that you can get the volume knocked out. And maybe the more difficult things have some sort of combination of human and automated approach to it, really in order to improve your actual product that you're using the artificial intelligence for. But you're going to have a lot more challenges as the reasoning challenge becomes more complex in working out how that agentic workflow is going to actually be able to assist you. And it's going to have a lot more design challenges in the automation to get it just right. So the sort of 80-20 rule, I think, is a really good way to do it. Yeah, I like to think of a lot of these workflows that agentic AI is enabling as being like having a super, super smart fleet of interns that can knock out a bunch of work for you. That's maybe on the easier scale initially, and then we sort of go up towards the more mature scale as we develop out better.
And on our SOC, kind of getting into some of the tooling, one of the things that we started a while ago was starting with the risk-based alerting approach, where instead of looking for an event that triggers an alert, what is a collection of events that can help determine whether or not that should be a triageable alert, right? So if somebody runs "Who am I?" at the command line, that could be bad, right? It could be an attacker that's trying to identify their permissions, or it could just be a really dumb program trying to check its permissions before it runs. Now, if you have that happen by itself, there's not a lot of context around it. But if you have the "Who am I" command, you're running the NetView command, you're running, ping sweeps on the command line, all of a sudden you're now collecting more context about what's happening on that endpoint instead of that single event. So we use Lima Charlie. We use whatever EDR our customers use, but we use Lima Charlie, and then we run that data through Tines, and Tines help us do that risk-based alerting. To be able to find some context around it. Now, that is also coupled with adversarial emulation, where we're going through and we're replicating the attacks that an attacker would do in a system, and then making sure that everything's working properly. And then on the offensive side, there's a number of things. I think, Joff, the things that the testers are most excited about is in the area of reporting, what can assist us with QC, QA, and generating and helping us get better context and actually looking at our reports and how we can do better, which I think is good. But the other thing that, just one thing that sticks out, yesterday, Bo was talking about using N8N and creating agents that can go out in a specific knowledge group, let's say cloud pen testing or exploitation, implant development, web application security assessments. And it can go out, it can scour the internet, go to a bunch of different RSS feeds, pull that data back, do analysis on that data, try to sort which of the articles would be interesting to the testers on a scaling and a scoring mechanism, seeing if it's new and seeing if it's unique, and then taking that and in some situations going to the point generating proof of concept code wherever available. And that's something that's feeding into the offensive side. So those are just a couple of examples on how we're using that in BHIS. And that's not exhaustive. There's a ton of stuff that we're using. But I want to get one quick thing back to Joff. I've noticed whenever it comes to AI, if you understand a topic, AI is probably one of the most powerful tools you can use. You cannot take AI and just drop it in the hands of a junior analyst and expect great things from that junior analyst, right? It seems that AI kind of rises to just below the level of the person that's using it. So really, we're focusing on getting some of the best people at BHIS that are utilizing these tools to be able to generate the outputs that the rest of the team can utilize.
Well, John just nailed it, actually, because the trick is, right, I think a lot of people out there today, when they hear, I'm going to use AI for something, they immediately default to, okay, well, I'll just go to the, chatbot interface and I'll start prompting, ChatGPT or one of these models that's out there to do the work for me. That's actually a bit of a fallacy, because where the skill really comes in, fallacy is probably not a good word, but where the skill really comes in is properly creating the prompting for the model to steer it in the right direction. And so they, in the prompting of the models, you've got to have skill in learning how to prompt them. But then if you go one step further and you start leaning down into workflow automation, and I'm absolutely going to do some labs on N8N, by the way, John.
I can never say it right the first time.
It's like
the same our company a tongue twister.
In fact, I'm going to lean into N8N pretty heavily in this class because it really is a nice no-code way of creating agentic AI workflows. And so we're going to be talking about that quite a lot. But cool. Lost my train of thought. Oh, so when when you bring some experience to the table of some super experience, let's say they're penetration testers, where we can make things really work is to build in the right prompting into the agentic tools so they become part of a framework that the heavy lifting of getting the reasoning correct is kind of the brain, if you like, is kind of built into the product, right? That's where it's at as we go forward. Very
cool. Joff, if an MSP leaves your workshop, they're done. They now have a month to implement anything, and it's an AI change, and a change by utilizing AI in a better way, or these kind of things. What do you believe that they should be implementing to create the biggest efficiency gain, but then without adding too much risk on their side? Because anything that we add, of course, as MSPs, it requires somewhat of a risk assessment.
I think there's a couple of things. I mean, the first thing I would say is organizationally, lay down some policy and standards first, right? I mean, I think that's sort of a pretext to your question in a way.
We can't just use AI without any policies in place. Just use ChatGPT, Claude, and all of these things at the same time.
I'd say that's inadvisable, right? Once you get that stuff laid down, I think the very next step that you can do is just send your folks to some training. Let them really understand, and my training might be this, it could be some other training, could be some combination. Let them really understand what these things are capable of doing and the way to talk to these models. Because if you don't get that right, you're going to have a lot of parallel duplicate efforts and attempts that are just going to waste a lot of money and time, right? Then, along with your policies and standards, you can lay down some additional, templating initially around the chat side of the models that are good templating for people to use. After that, you can go further into the agentic side and start really talking about upping your workflow automation game.
Awesome. I think I'm out of questions.
We'll jump back over to. So we'll jump to Phyllis and on to Patterson, and then Kelvin, you'll take the last few there.
Sure. Yeah.
So Patterson, tell us about your highly popular workshop titled Incident Response Simplified.
No pressure, right? So my day job is helping businesses respond to and recover from cyber incidents. We work with small to medium businesses a lot. We work in conjunction with MSPs a lot. So when Andrew came to me with this opportunity, for better or for worse, we were honestly in the midst of seeing recurring themes in that SMB space in terms of cybersecurity incidents. And so legitimately, we built this workshop from the ground up based on multiple recurrent events in the SMB MSP space. And long story short, somebody has to pop in and out during everybody's.
It's my turn. It's my turn now.
It was your turn.
Who knows?
Focus. Listen to me. Anyway.
Hey, here.
I like to win. I really, really do. Engaging in a business that has been breached, unauthorized access activities occurred. I want to win. I want you to win. And winning means, as effectively as possible, minimizing any negative impact on that business. So this entire workshop is based on that premise. I want you to have a simple, effective, repeatable approach that if bad stuff happens, you know what to do. We start with a little bit of strategy. We work our way into a tactical approach. We'll do hands-on labs with actual tools, techniques, technologies, so that, again, start to finish, honestly, we can win. I think a critical component of that is simplification. Your life is complex. your business is complex, throw a threat actor into the mix, and the incident just blows up and spirals out of control. IR simplified. That is my entire approach. Honestly, that's a summary of my job, my career, maybe even. How do we simplify this so that we can win the day and recover, get back to business as usual, improve security posture, all in 4 hours?
That sounds awesome. Incident response and recovery in 4 hours, folks.
You might have some homework. You might have some homework when we're done, but
that's good. That's good. So, you said, you guys have a lot of experience working with MSPs, and, so we think MSPs probably don't fail incident response because they lack tools. They have a ton of tools. They fail because once something actually happens, everything does get chaotic. So what breaks first in a real incident from your experience?
Wow, that's a fantastic question. I feel a great deal of empathy for MSPs. We touched on it a little bit. Kelvin touched on it, as it pertains to the largest businesses on the planet. And it's that contention between running a business and being productive and making money and securing all the things. So that is a very unique conundrum for the MSP. And I feel that pain every time we have active IR. Having said that, I think that the first thing that fails is the lack of prioritized response, prioritization of response and resource allocation. Long story short, almost unequivocally, when we get a call for active IR, the customer has one question. And that question is, what do we do now? What do we do now? And that, again, is my goal for this conversation, is to help you answer that question, recognizing that IR is dynamic, won't always be the same answer, but at least knowing where to go after the bad stuff occurs.
So I have a question. Do those customers typically already have an incident response plan, or are they starting from zero? Are we not putting what we need to put in our IR plan? Because when a real incident happens, it's like we all panic. It reminds me of this story when I worked at the agency, and the fire alarm goes off during the day, and it's like the fire's on the 3rd floor. If you're on the 2nd and the 4th, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th can go down. 1st and 5th, you wait, And then the fire alarm went off at 6 at night, and the guy gets on the intercom and he's like, "It's not a drill. Run out, everyone get out of the building." So we have all these great plans, but then when it actually happens, we're all in a panic. So, is that do they have good plans, bad plans, no plans? What's the level of the customer?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question and a tremendous parallel. And the answer is, I'll use the phraseology. I'll probably overuse the phraseology. I like the word tactical. And when I say tactical, I am specifically thinking about the general definition of maneuvering to accomplish a purpose, as differentiated from the strategic. The strategic plan is 74 pages long, and nobody ever reads the plan in the midst of active IR. And so again, part of my proposal is that we come out with a tactical plan of actual things we're going to do in the event of an emergency. 5 pages is too long, point in fact. And so, yeah, absolutely spot on.
Is that, John, just quick pivot, is that part of the reason for backdoors and breaches? For example, being able to do this happens, do this. Obviously, can be very technical in nature, but as Patterson said, incident response plans are great, tabletops are great. Well, when it's the fan.
I'm gonna paraphrase Phyllis and Mike Tyson. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face, right? And backdoors and breaches is a way to get yourself to punch yourself in the face to be more prepared for it, right? It's there to spawn off questions. If you have this specific type of attack that hits you, do you have the technical components, the Lego pieces in place to deal with it appropriately? I mean, Patterson, the question is, what do we do next, right? A lot of times we ask, okay, where are the logs? Where do we have the logs? Tell me where the logs are. And it's very rare for an organization that's been compromised to be absolutely, here's all of our logs. This is exactly where they are. This is the format that they're going to come in. Here's how we have them pulled down. A lot of times they're we don't know.
Or what are logs?
Yeah, they may have a vague idea. They're well, we'll give you credentials, Patterson, and then you can go get them. Is that okay? And it's basically trying to expose people to questions. If this particular attack hits you, these are the corresponding defensive components that you need to have in place. And it's not complicated. It can get very, very complicated, but if you can prepare and be ready, it's not that complicated once you get that level of preparation in place. And that's, I really look at Patterson in my session, like they really dovetail in, because my heart is IR. Patterson taught SANS 504. I taught SANS 504 for a long time. He did forensics instruction. And it's one of those things, like Patterson says, we hate to lose. And that's one of the things that's awesome about what we get to do and what Patterson does every day is, you actually get to get in and you get to mix it up with a real adversary on the other side of a computer screen, not an abstract plan, policy, or procedure. There's someone on the other side that is an adversary against you. And it's one of the greatest feelings in the world to win. That's part of the reason why I went into offense, though, because we get that dopamine hit a little bit faster.
Right.
So that, and honestly, I don't know why it's rare. I think Patterson has it more than I do, but you get to the end of a good pen test and they're like, thanks, that was fantastic. Great job. And a lot of times at IR, everyone is so burnt out. Like there's no like, this was a great time, Patterson. This was amazing. This is one of the highlights of my life.
There still was a breach.
It's usually
still a breach.
It's usually, thank you for your help. I hope to never speak to you again.
I never want to see you again, ever.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe we covered this, but in your experience, what's the most common "we thought we were ready" gap you see when MSPs are responding to their first serious incident?
John just touched on it. Beautiful segue. And the fact is, it's visibility. It's the business and or the MSP. They want help understanding what happened. And so one of the first things is, how do we gain visibility in the environment? And often that's logs, that's capabilities, that is tooling. And we roll in and say, let's look at your firewall logs. And they have approximately 4 hours worth of logs with zero fidelity. And I hate saying to the customer, I'm sorry, I can't tell you. I can't tell you what happened.
And it's awesome when we get those firewall logs and they're in a PDF.
Yeah. I was just thinking that, or they're in like a screenshot. It's like,
yeah,
what do you
a
mean?
series of JPEGs.
Like,
Oh my God, no.
Here's the good news. Like, these are the kind of things that are going to be uncovered in your sessions, right? Like, hey, maybe 4 hours of logs that constantly overwrite themselves because of lack of space isn't like the way to go.
But a lot of them, I think that's great, Phyllis, because so many people don't even know that that's a problem, right? And that's why you should be going to these Right of Boom sessions, right? Because we're trying to be ahead of the curve on a lot of this stuff, and that's our goal.
So, and what I'm also gathering, I like that, what you said, tactical, because even, I'm thinking about our controls. It's like, have a point person, have the phone tree, you know what I mean? Like, who's going to be leading the, all those kind of like very high level top things versus, everything is interconnected. When we say collect logs, it's not just, there's many things. It's for vulnerability management. It's for incident response. It's for, so many things. So I really like, even just in this Q&A, like, just gets my juices flowing, thinking about all the things that we can do to help organizations. So anyway, I'll stop talking and pass it to Ken.
I also loved your fire alarm analogy, which actually leads me to a question for Patterson immediately. Like, what's the one concept that instantly removes that fire alarm panic? Like that just makes people feel like, hey, I'm in control now. What's one IR concept that you have that when you introduce it or when you have an incident that you're trying to get under control, no matter what tools people use or what software they have, like this immediately creates some peace for everyone?
I think, it's a bit of a contention in I rebel against the sort of overarching, overwhelming strategic incident response plan. At the same time, I absolutely believe you need a plan of action. And although IR will always be dynamic, that sense that if the alarm goes off, I know what to do. I may not have the entirety of a plan. I may not know how to full stop recover the building if it burns down, but I know what to do now. And maybe I know the next step and the next step. And that, again, it calms the chaos. Everybody takes a deep breath. To butcher a Jocko Willink quote, take a breath, look around, make a call. Do that next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing, and we're on our way to active response and winning the day.
Patterson, Clark Harshbarger, who used to be with CrowdStrike, he was their director of IR. He'll be at RoB26 also doing a session. He very similar to you, said very similar things. But the one thing he really believed was having your call tree, like printed, because again, systems down, you can't get things. But he's like, if there was one piece of advice I would have is, who are the main people I need to call? This person, cyber insurance, my breach attorney, like the most critical call tree people. That was his. What are your thoughts on that?
I will provide you an external resource. I will provide the attendees an external resource specifically to what I think a tactical IR plan should contain. And it should contain critical roles. And I mean critical roles. I don't mean 93 roles. I mean, who's in charge? Who's the secondary person who's in charge, etc. So those critical roles, critical contact components, and then some critical pieces around who has emergency authority in the midst of active IR, the end. And literally one page if we can do it. And so then having that available, ready, socialized, to me is super beneficial, because nobody should be doing this alone, honestly. And so knowing, again, who's in charge, who to call, bringing that group together with a prioritized response and prioritized allocation of resource, that's how we do this well.
Yeah, good answer. Kelvin, I got one more.
Yeah. So if an MSP adopts your IR approach, what will be the difference when they get that 2 a.m. call and an engineer picks up the phone and goes like, sorry, what did you say? Everything's hacked? Everything's ransomed?
Great question. So what I want to do in that specific situation, you get that call whenever it is, it's a Friday afternoon, right? Always. That Friday afternoon call, you immediately pivot to a scoping conversation. You ask the right questions, so you get off that call with a basic understanding of what is happening. And then based on this overarching conversation, you know the next steps to take. Moving into, again, an overarching workflow, complete with tools, techniques, et cetera, to respond effectively. Again, that first piece is just take the call, deep breath, and then ascertain as best you're able, situational awareness, what's happening right now. And then, okay, I know what to do. I know what to do. At least the second step in that process.
Yeah, easy. We have this session called Cutoff between event, incident, and breach, and it's packed. I mean, we have one of the MSPs that does this, I think, just about better than anyone. His name's Leif Wildenberg. He's going to provide his entire process to all attendees, and he's running the session twice. That said, question for you, in closing, Bob kind of asked this in chat, Patterson. You have this process, you ask all these questions, now you've got a good intake. What's your, I guess, 80-20 rule on notifying cyber insurance? Is it one of your key questions? Do you have cyber? Can you just close us out with that? I think it's really important.
That absolutely is a key question. And my overarching approach to that is that I hope that your cybersecurity insurance provider is your business partner. If they are not your business partner, start looking for an alternative solution provider right now. I see a lot of businesses relate to cyber insurance like auto insurance. I got an offender bender. I can fix it. It'll be fine. Don't call insurance. If that's your relationship with cyber, I really think you should reconsider that relationship. I want you to have the kind of relationship with that insurance provider where you call them right away. You engage them. You keep them informed. You want to have those discussions in advance. A lot of businesses are not in that position. That's an absolute to-do item before the stuff hits the fan.
That's so well said, and I'll close with this, and then get some closing comments. He asked Chris Lair, who's an IR and has worked in many years. I think one of the biggest misconceptions, Patterson, is, like you just said, the auto insurance. Like, don't tell them our deductible is going to go up. The cyber company, they want to know sooner than later. They're thrilled not to jack your rates, because the sooner they can get their teams in there, get a breach attorney, IR, etc., the lower that payout's going to be. So a huge misconception, right, John?
Absolutely. This gets into, boy, we got no time left. Thanks for dropping that on me.
We can go a little over. Go.
And this gets into something Patterson and I are talking and have been talking about for a while, is kind of the state of IR as it relates to the insurance industry and how the industry has kind of driven it to this mad race to the bottom. And I think that that's a long conversation that I think many companies need to have, because sometimes it's not enough just to have insurance or working with an insurance company that's going to give you an IR firm. Because remember, that IR firm, their number one goal is not really your well-being, right? They're trying to minimize the cost as much as possible to them, not to you, to them. And once again, I'd like to try to come up with some things maybe in 27, maybe in 28, Patterson, I don't know, when we have more time to try to take that on. But it is something that does need to be taken on at some point. But then to tie it into some of the stuff that Phyllis has been working on with CIS, with setting up, you can actually implement controls and you can create safe harbor. And I think that kind of starts helping. And I think all of this stuff kind of intermixes, and I think it's finally starting to combust, right? Especially in the MSP, MSSP space. And you're doing this for an advertisement. That's one of the reasons why people should be coming to the Write a Boom conference, without question, because it is the intersection of compliance. It is the intersection of legal. It is the intersection of day-to-day technical operations. It is the intersection of IR and how it relates for a group of people that are responsible for securing over 60% of the nation's critical infrastructure.
Phyllis is coming to Write a Boom, but she has been working on a project with cyber insurance. And Phyllis, maybe we'll figure out a way to do something. It'd be the last day, but let's talk about that. I think we would get some interest in that, or maybe put you in with there's a session on legal and insurance, see if they would have you join. So with that, I know we're a little over. Patterson, thank you so much for joining. Can't wait to see you in a few weeks. Joff, the same. And John, as always, thank you. All you out there that joined us, I know we lost some of you already because we're over the hour, but look forward to seeing you all next week. Kelvin, thanks for joining. I know
we got one last question, though. Benjamin asked, Kelvin, when do you sleep? Oh.
Rarely. Once a year, I take a week off to catch up on all my sleep, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Good deal. I like it.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Phyllis. See you guys.
Yes, bye-bye.
Bye.
All voices, one place. There's a session for everyone on your team at Write a Boom 2026, MGM Las Vegas, February 3rd to 6th. Join us to connect, learn, and bring back insights that matter.